Hello, reconsider, welcome back. Independent knowledge, alternative views. So, continue on from my experience I had at Contact in the Desert. I also wanted to talk about a couple that I saw. They are called JJ and Desiree Hurtak. They are both social scientists, futurists and founders of the Academy for Future Science. Their experiences and work in this field stretch back nearly 40 years. Dr. JJ Hurtak was part of the original Disclosure project event that went back way in 1995, but both of them have also written books, made films, briefed governments and even the UN. A very fascinating couple. The talk I saw was incredibly varied. One standout area of research that I've never heard of before involved a gentleman called George Van Tassel. He was the creator of the Integratron. Now, the Integratron is located about 70 miles away from Yucca Valley, which is the Contact in the Desert site, and is based in a sparsely desert populated area called Landers. Now, Van Tassel was a flight inspector around 1930 to 1947. He worked for ominous companies such as Douglas Aircraft, Hughes Aircraft and Lockheed. He and his family apparently moved to the desert after his retirement from the aerospace industry, and he dug out rooms underneath a giant rock for his family to live in. They lived there happily and very simply. He then went on to extend the site, integrating a cafe, an airstrip and even a ranch. Apart from maybe the subterranean rooms, so far the story seems pretty standard. But hold on tight, here it comes. The story goes that Van Tassel had a group meditation in the family room under the giant rock in 1953. Then, later on in that year, he claims a visitor from Venus woke him up in the middle of the night and invited him on board his craft. While on board the craft, the ET verbally and telepathically communicated to him plans that would help heal and rejuvenate the body. These concepts and ideas would then influence him and others to go on to build the Integratron. Now, the Integratron, the dome structure, is about 35 feet high and 55 feet in diameter. It's made out of a non-ferromagnetic material constructed from wood, concrete, glass and fiberglass. The dome carries a fixed rotating metal structure known as the electrostatic diroid. The entire structure was kind of a scientific research project looking to ideas of time travel, anti-gravity and human rejuvenation. Its technology and principles were loosely based on research of Nikola Tesla and George Lakhovsky. I hope I said that right. Its power to heal at a cellular level is down to its location. It sits on an intersection of powerful geomagnetic forces. This incredible power and energy is focused and amplified by the dome building's geometry. It was the electrostatic diroid forces that are fed to the stator, or stator, situated in the lower room of the dome. Construction of the Integratron started in 1953, and alas, the Integratron was never fully finished. Van Tassel died suddenly before its opening in 1978. I guess you can kind of view this death potentially as suspicious, but what is even more suspicious is the fact that shortly after his death, the dome was burgled and some of the important technology that was created in there was stolen. This means potentially that the Integratron would never really fully work correctly. Now, I found on YouTube a very old, scratchy 25-minute video, and it has Van Tassel. The interviewing style can at times be quite funny, and especially the Scottish bullishness of the interviewer, but here's a clip for you now to view.
Time machine you're building down in California.
Well, Jack, this was the result of a formula which was given to me by a man who landed a ship at my airport in 1953. And we put this formula under research, tested a number of experiments on a bench in a good electronics lab in Chicago, and we produced phenomenal results with evidence that we should do it on a larger scale in order to be able to do more with it. And this evolved out of something that started in 1953 into a 4-story high machine that we're working on down there today.
Now, George, I don't care whether the machine is 4 stories high or 40 stories high or 4 inches high. When I say calmly and unexcitedly, a time machine, What does your formula tell you can do with a time machine?
Well, Jack, our formula has no time factor, which electronic formula does have. And on the other hand, electronic science has only had two dimensions to work with, the electric pattern and the magnetic pattern perpendicular to it. And we discovered a third zone, which we call a time zone, and we are working through this zone with an effort to orient the magnetic field to give us other results than our science can obtain at present.
George, it's double talk to me. A time machine means to me a little box that I can go into and go back 5,000 years or forward 10,000 years. Is that what your formula tells you can do?
Well, Jack, this isn't a little box. This is a four-story machine focusing fields that we can orient to produce this zone big enough for a man to get into. It isn't a box.
But what happens to the man when he gets into the zone? I'm all agog with curiosity.
Jack, we've discovered this zone is subject to thought. Now, since time doesn't record events the way we do on calendars and clocks, you could only record an event by thinking of it. Now, theoretically, we believe we can take a videotape magnetic camera into the time zone and photograph Lincoln's Gettysburg Address or Caesar's armies marching or anything that's ever happened.
All right, let me get this straight. In other words, you're telling me, like H.G. Wells imagined 50 years ago, that everything that happened in time is still there to be seen by the recreation electronically of a thought which exists.
Jack, you know how you talk into a tape on a tape recorder and play the interruptions back, identical to the play that you made. The Earth's magnetic field is the same way. You can put interruptions into it and play them back out of it. An associate of ours in creating a magnetic coupler with this principle coupled in the Earth's magnetic field and played back TV shows from stations that aren't even in business anymore.
You mean that an experiment has been done to bring out of the air television programs which have been and gone?
Been and gone.
Now, where was this experiment conducted?
It was conducted in Santa Monica by an associate of mine.
Why hasn't this hit the headlines throughout the world as that's a time machine in action? If I can...
Jack, the reason it hasn't hit the world is because, as I understand it now, the Navy Department took him and the research over because he also discovered he could bounce magnetic echoes off the ionosphere and locate submarines under the ocean, regardless of where they were.
So who is this associate of yours?
This is a fellow named Charlie Arts.
Charlie Arts?
Yeah.
And is he a free man walking around today?
Well, he's free where he is in this super secret research he's conducting.
Now, so therefore you tell me soberly in front of this television camera that things, old television programs have been recreated out of nothing.
Played back with a picture and the sound just as good as the day they were broadcast. We've done this many times.
Why didn't you bring one up with you?
Well, this requires quite a piece of apparatus. This magnetic coupler works on around 50,000 volts, and it doesn't have any radio frequency connected with it. And actually, the television set which plays back the picture doesn't even have an antenna connected to it.
George, you know as well as I do, and you've been on television 350 times, and I've known you. I met you once 7 years ago, and I kind of like you. Mm-hmm. But you know what the people out there are saying. They're saying this man's a nut.
Well, Jack, you know, when Fulton was running his steamboat up the Hudson River, there were people still standing on the bank saying it couldn't be done.
All right, let me take you further back, though. You have a time machine plan. You have done experiments which show you can bring the past to life. Where did this formula come from?
I love that Scotch accent. Jack, the formula came from a ship that landed at my airport in 1953 on August the 24th. Which had 4 people aboard it that came from another planet.
I'm breathless.
Well, you're not only breathless, I was breathless.
But I'm cynical, too.
Well, that's fine. That's the way to be. In fact, I'm a bigger skeptic than you are of many things.
I'm an unbeliever. Convince me that this really happened to you.
Well, this thing is very similar to a thing that happened in our biblical records where a Lord presented Moses with a pattern to build a tabernacle. They came out of the sky, they handed him stone tablets, And this phenomena that's taking place today is as old as our history.
It's a good video, isn't it? Now, the Integratron is now owned by 3 sisters. It's open to the public. They host music events along with sound baths inside for rejuvenation and actual healing. So again, like a fascinating story and also a fascinating instructor. I was pretty enamoured by the whole thing. I did try and visit, but it was too late in the day for me to gain access. You can tell that they take security quite seriously. It was pretty locked down and very secure looking with fences all around. I guess the structure still may be an ongoing threat to the powers that be. I'm not sure, I'm just speculating. So that concludes the Integratron. Crazy story. All links will be placed below, but thanks for watching. Reconsider. Thank you very much. Bye bye.